It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and TanMan. All right, true believers, welcome into episode 103 of The Border War. We are live on Spreaker. Not going to say what TanMan did because you could be listening to this later. So it's difficult to tell if we're live or not, but you know if you're listening to us
live.
You're
listening to it right now.
But you can't say that. I just explained that.
We're live now.
Okay.
And now. And we're still live.
And we're still live. This is going to be kind of a combo show, but before we get into that,
I titled it Talkin Sport.
I'm reading all these instructions you have for me, so I'm supposed to remind people that they can listen to us on Spreaker, live or in podcast form, on Spotify, which is my personal preference for podcasts, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, BlackBerry Podcast, TuneIn Radio app, everything but iHeartRadio, which is just a beta thing. Nobody wants to be on that anyway. You can follow us on Twitter. The show is at The Border War. I am at BG_Border War, and TanMan is at TanMan3264. If you think those numbers have any relevance, they don't. They're just random numbers.
Nah.
Because TanMan won't change his
Twitter
handle.
Well, it says such and such is taken, but here's the suggestion. I'm like, okay. Give me the numbers.
You made that before we did the show, though, right?
Yes.
This segment of the show brought to you by Spartanburg Restaurant, peanut butter and jelly.
PB&J's.
PB&J's. All they sell, peanut butter and jelly.
It's
City manager Will Rothschild, very excited about this.
Nice sandwiches, good sandwiches, and a nice, fun family atmosphere. You can also follow them on Twitter at PB&J's SPTBG.
All you've got to do, the Twitter handle, easy to find. The restaurant, not so much. But if you find it, let us know where it is because we would love to eat there.
Stop in and eat a sandwich.
All right, so this is going to be a combination college baseball NFL show. The NFL, obviously, in free agent market, not really worth a whole broadcast. College baseball, what can you say? Things have been set right. The state, once again, belongs to the South Carolina Gamecocks, which neither of us thought would happen. So let's start there.
We'll start with the Reedy River Rivalry. You refuse to acknowledge
it's not,
the name.
Only one of the three games is played near the Reedy River, and next year none of them will be.
I heard the next year one's going to be in Columbia.
At another stadium.
At the Columbia Fireflies, because everybody was complaining about how Clemson gets 2 home games. I'm like, okay, timeout. Y'all getting ready to play one literally in the same city. Well, so everybody just...
Look, I mean, that's what you do in a rivalry. You try to be as hypocritical as possible. I'm fine with that.
I still say go back to playing two-game series, one at their place, one at you guys' place. Scrap the neutral site game. It doesn't seem like anybody really likes it, which I found crazy because I thought the game at Greenville at Floor Field, I thought, man, it's a great idea. Turns out, not most people don't really like it that much. From what I saw over the weekend.
Well, as far as the home field advantage thing, I mean, it sounds great, but look, South Carolina's won the last 4 games at Clemson. We can't beat them in Greenville to save our tail. So,
5 times in a row or something like that.
Yeah, and we won the first 5 that we played there. So maybe it's who has a better baseball team that night. I don't know.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about crowds of 25, 40, 30,000 people. We're talking about 8,500 people.
Well, look, you need to put it in a place where crowds aren't going to be 90-10. That's all I'm saying.
We can't have a 90-10.
That's all I'm saying.
90-10 ratio. I wish I thought any of the people who thought that was funny were actually listening, but, maybe they are. Yes. Okay. Give me your thoughts, TanMan.
Well, I thought the series, like we said last week, I said I think you're going to see a lot of runs, some high scores, some competitive ball games. Turns out one of the games was competitive. Friday night
was competitive. It was not a great game.
No, not a great
games
game.
Looked really sloppy and tight to me.
But you kind of got a little bit of excitement, something to watch toward the end. So look, Saturday and Sunday, I mean, they were beat downs. What else can you say?
Yeah,
one way and the other. I texted you about the fourth inning. I said, well, I guess I can turn this thing off on Sunday now because it's, what was it, 11-1, 12-1 after 4 innings. You ran a pitcher, didn't even make it out of the first inning on Sunday.
And what was my response
Tip your cap.
And what was my response?
I was. You were going to sit there and watch?
I was going to sit there and watch.
Did you sit and watch the whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. I've watched it again since then. Yeah.
Why?
I like to beat Clemson and stuff.
I find the practice of watching old games.
Something I found. Oh, shut up, man. Something I found out this weekend I did not know. Clemson and South Carolina played each other in hockey this weekend. Hockey.
Where?
I don't know. It was an exhibition game, and it was unable to draw to a conclusion. There was no final score because there was a massive bench-clearing brawl with blood everywhere, and they just sent everybody home.
You serious, Clark?
I'm dead serious.
I had no idea they even played
that's
hockey.
what both Twitter feeds are like, both Clemson and Carolina fans saying, what is this? I didn't know this. No one knew.
Learned something new.
I don't know.
Well, tell me what, from the Gamecocks perspective, what is it you thought you learned about your baseball team you didn't know going in?
All right, so we talked about last week how South Carolina, and I kind of made the argument that I thought we had a lot of guys that could hit home runs, but that those home runs had been had covered up some lapses in hitting, right?
Yeah.
That we hadn't looked great against lesser competition. Clemson is as good as 2/3 of the teams in the SEC. I think that Vanderbilt, Florida, some schools like that may be better than Clemson and South Carolina, but Clemson's pitching staff, nothing to sneeze at. Obviously, I think the South Carolina power is as advertised, and with some questionable starting pitching, at least so far this year, that power is probably going to be needed. I think South Carolina is going to have a big offensive year to have the success that they had.
Well, I don't think either one of those ball clubs can have come out of the weekend feeling all that great about their pitching staff.
No, I think aside from Reed Morgan, who, honestly, man, he has become a cult hero already in Columbia. He started.
It's the glasses.
3 games. It's not the glasses, man. It's the attitude.
It's the glasses.
It's the stare down. I mean, kind of returning the.
It's the glasses. It's the sleeve.
The Trevor Lawrence stare down after the first touchdown pass this year. Reed Morgan strikes out the side and just stands on the mound and stares at the Clemson dugout like, what you got?
Channeling his inner John Rocker. What?
No one should channel their inner or outer John Rocker.
John Rocker was amazing.
He was, and then he was not.
What do you mean?
He became a terrible pitcher.
Well, it happens to everybody.
Why do you have to go there with everything?
It happens to everybody
whenever
the steroids wear off.
Possible slight.
Wow, so I'm just...
you're paranoid.
I'm trying to catch you slipping, that's all. Now,
you'll be waiting a long time.
Not as long as you think. What's the deal with Madzinski's, or however you say his name? What happened to him?
It fractured fifth metatarsal, I suppose, is one of the upper, ridge of the foot.
Yeah.
Ridge of the foot. Going to be out 6 weeks.
I heard him saying he was going to be out a good bit. I didn't hear him say what exactly
I think 5 to 6 weeks is the medical diagnosis. Kingston's a pretty tight-lipped guy. Not really saying he hadn't looked great anyway.
No.
Not that don't make. Let me restate that he could have turned the season around. I mean, he obviously has talent. He wouldn't have been the Friday night starter, but just a bad break.
Well, that's good.
Weird little baseball injuries.
I had heard, like I said, over the weekend that he had gotten out.
And by bad break, I mean bad luck, not a bad break.
Right, and he was injured, was going to miss some time, but I never did hear exactly what it was. I was hoping it wasn't anything elbow or arm related. So it's a bone. It's a bone. That's good. I'm glad. Listen, glad you guys righted the wrongs in the college baseball world in the Cloud State.
We talked about this last week. This rivalry between the two schools, it needed South Carolina to win one.
Right,
it needed one.
Yeah, because it had been a severe beatdown, I guess, except for hockey.
Now, just to recall last year, Clemson won that Sunday game in Columbia in the bottom of the ninth on a. That game was in the top of the ninth. Or no, I'm sorry, in the top of the 10th they won that game. It went into extra innings, and the game was tied right up until the end. But no, South Carolina, I think that they didn't so much show that they had swagger in that game. I think they actually found it. And I think this team is going to look – they actually are about to start playing right now, if they're not already playing tonight. I think they start at 5 tonight. They play 5 games this week. Got a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, and the weekend series.
Who's the weekend series? SEC.
Valparaiso, I think.
I was to say, I don't think that they start the same time.
Start Georgia, I believe, is the first SEC in 2 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, look, this series was, other than Reed Morgan, like I said, dominated by South Carolina. Hitting is what really stood out. I told you last week, T.J. Hopkins is a bad man, and he showed it.
3 home runs this weekend?
There was a list of 9 RBIs for the weekend.
Wow.
A list of South Carolina players that did not equal 9 RBIs versus Clemson in their careers includes players like Justin Smoke. It was basically a who's who of South Carolina baseball that this guy beat in a weekend. Barry Hill at the catcher spot obviously had a huge game. I don't know if you saw that. I mean, he hit that home run over the left field corner, and it looked like a sand wedge shot. Like he didn't even swing the bat. I don't know how that happens. I guess guys just have that much talent in their wrist, and they've played that much baseball, they catch it on the right spot of the bat. But
if the ball's coming in there fast enough, you really don't have to swing that hard.
It's catching it in the right spot. And of course, getting it down the line like that. But yeah, Noah Campbell at the leadoff spot, a lot of really critical hits. But I liked, aside from just beating Clemson, I liked that I saw some emotion from the team. Yeah. They, for the first time in a couple years, they reminded me a little more of those really good teams from back in the day. I saw a lot of camaraderie. And I think, to a degree, sort of challenged by Clemson in the pregame talk. One of the Clemson players, I'm sure you saw the story, came out and said he thought, before that, in the week before leading up, had said some things like South Carolina had lost that series recently because Clemson had a better baseball culture. Which is poor choice of words.
Well, if you go back to the Chad Holbrook years, I don't know that I don't know that he may not necessarily be wrong with that.
And I agree. But when you're winning a series or when you're winning repeatedly, I don't know, maybe don't kick the dog. Because of all the sports in Columbia that you don't want to rile up, baseball's the one. In every other sport, I'll make a confession here. I watch other teams play. And I see guys, right, on their basketball team, on their football team, that just look different from our guys. They look a little more put together off the field. They look a little more together. Our best cornerback just lost his shoe at the combine. That's South Carolina football. I don't know what to tell you. But not in baseball. When I look at our guys, their faces, the looks in their eyes, they look like the guys I want in that dugout.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. That's a really outside-the-box kind of take. But
I think the culture under Kingston and the way things are run now, you're right. I think it's completely different. It's a total 180 from what it was by the end of Chad Holbrook's run. The end of Holbrook's run was a disaster. It was a mess.
While I got I don't know if you've listened to any of Kingston's press conferences. You should. Man, he's the alpha male. Man, I don't know, what is he, 6'6"? Like, he is huge.
How big are his hands?
Massive.
He doesn't have tiny hands.
No, he does not have tiny hands. But he takes the high road. They asked him about, did you see the ridiculous question in the middle of the game? Did you see that? They do
where they put the headset on the
headset in the dugout. These two clowns ask him, "Hey, Coach, you used to coach in Tampa. That's where Clemson won its national title. What are some good restaurants in Tampa to eat at where Clemson won its national title?" And he basically said, "You kind of caught me off guard with that one. I'm going to go with just any of the local pizza joints, sort of with the attitude in his voice of like, you ask me a question like that again, I'm coming up there.
That was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, somebody should have asked Monty Lee, like on Sunday, hey, you're in Columbia where there are 2 national title trophies on display here at Founders Park. Which of the 2 do you like best, the 2010 trophy or the 2011 trophy? I mean, that would have been stupid too, but they didn't ask him that.
Like that old Ray Tanner and Jack Liggett meme when they're standing at home plate and Ray Tanner's like pointing out there and he's like, all right, we're going to put our other national championship flag right over there.
No, I watched an interview, post-game interview with Tanner from back in, I don't know, I guess about 2012 or so when Leggett had accused him of warming his bats. And
I remember that.
And Tanner, man, you don't realize how much Ray Tanner has changed as a human being until you go back and watch him talk when he had that baseball cap on, because he was a bad dude. He is not anymore.
I convinced my boss man. I was working, I guess it was, 2002 when y'all lost to Texas in the championship game? Out there, I was working at a grocery store then. I had convinced my boss, my supervisor, that Ray Tanner was my uncle and that I needed to be off for the next week because we were going to Omaha. And he went on and on, no. And I don't know what Ray Tanner's wife's name is, but I was like, it's like his wife Kelly just texted me, like, she's making the plans now. And so he finally got to the point where he was just like scratching the back of his head, and he was like, well, gosh, I guess I got to let you off then. Like, I had done such a great job convincing this guy that Ray Tanner was my uncle that he was getting ready to, like, let me off with pay to sit at home and watch the College World Series.
You better hope he's not listening. What's the statute of limitations on a check from Community Cash? I mean, you could be owing them money here.
Owing them the $6 that I got paid an hour or whatever that was. Anyway, like I said, great win for you guys this weekend. Like I said, I was glad to see it because, I have to live here and have to live around the Clemson fans, so it was nice to have them knock down a peg or two, even if it was done by you guys. The Gamecocks, I think, have slipped into the rankings, have they not?
Most polls, there's about 6 polls.
There's about 6. I think I've got baseball.
One of us has us at 20th, but most of them are around 24.
I've got Baseball America pulled up. It's got you guys in at 20, the Tigers.
Which is unusual because, Baseball America is the one that's famous for being ACC heavy.
Well,
all of them, we're ranked higher in that than the rest of them.
I saw one that was talking about you guys being the ones that bumped Clemson out. This one's got Clemson at 21. Got a lot of ACC teams in here. I see Duke, NC State followed in at 22 and
Just 23. For the record, this tweet's a minute old. We're playing the Citadel today. Gamecocks leading 8-0 here into the 6th.
So you guys got Valparaiso this weekend. The Tigers, the 3rd-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels coming to town. So maybe that you guys get a bite at the apple last weekend. Let us come to town. Let us finish them off, and let's put the Tigers behind the 8 ball. What do you say?
The Tar Heels are flipping loaded, man.
Yes,
they are loaded.
Yes, they are.
And I'll say it we talked about it last week. I mean, you got to make it to Omaha clearly. But this kind of team, you're right. Well, Fox needs to win a national title with this team.
It's not even just going to Omaha. Like
you got to win it.
You got to win it. I mean, they went out there last year, and I think they got rained out one night, so they played Oregon State at like 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. A sun was still coming up, and before they knew it, by the 4th inning, that thing was like 11-3, and it was over. I mean, they can't go out there and lay an egg again this year. If North Carolina goes back out to Omaha, they've got to handle business. It's just, I hate to put that on there because I think the College World Series is one of the most difficult things to win in sports. But look,
there's just so much randomness to it. You have to win so many games to even get to it.
Look, you go out there. You've been out there several times. You've had several bites at the apple. I think they've gone out there a couple of these times with the best team of the 18.
Oh, yeah.
And still come up empty-handed, where they run into a hot pitcher like they did with Mike Leake a few years ago, or a hot team like Oregon State last year. So look, man, got to go out there and handle business. No excuses. Starts this weekend. Let's go down there and smack the Tigers around a little bit.
I'm with you.
Finish what you started. NFL offseason is up and running. Now, you've got. I'm sure unless you've been under
Harsh
a rock.
transition. Football. Okay.
Yeah, unless you've been under a rock, Antonio Brown is going to be moved here very shortly.
This tells you all you need to know about Antonio Brown. There's a story as of this afternoon on NFL.com. The 9 most likely destinations for him. What?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
What? Is he going to the Raiders? He's going to be a Raider, right? Is that right? I mean, but and if so, does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Well, why'd you get rid of the guy you had? None of it makes any sense. Man, we're just chasing our tail here.
It makes perfect sense.
Why?
They're going to. First of all, they're the Raiders.
Okay.
All right. That's kind of like the cow. You need a show. Secondly, they're going to Vegas, man. You can't go to Vegas and be boring. You can't go to Vegas and be 3-13.
Well, why did they give you guys their best wide receiver then? They had that guy. Amari Cooper is that guy. You knew what he could do. He was on.
Listen, he had hit a wall in Oakland, man. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes you, I don't want to say he wore out his welcome, but sometimes you kind of hit a glass ceiling in a place and you need a fresh start.
We just spent last week saying that only applied in basketball, that chemistry isn't really a thing in football.
That and he got hooked up with a better quarterback.
Oh, boy.
But anyway, no, man, they've got the draft.
He got hooked up with the 16th best quarterback in the NFL.
Well, when you got the 41st best quarterback, I wouldn't sit over there and talk very much.
We don't even have a quarterback. You have to have 2 legs to have a quarterback.
Man, they're going out to Vegas, they have to be interesting, man. And Antonio Brown to Oakland with John Gruden, it would be interesting.
Best tweet of the weekend, this guy went from being the best wide receiver in football to looking like he escaped from a mental ward. Man, what's with the blonde mustache?
Wow. I'll say this. If I'm a football team, and I think you're probably.
Does he go to Raiders? Does he go to the Raiders? Is that your?
I have no idea. I really don't have a clue where he goes.
I don't want him in Washington if it comes at the expense of a quarterback.
Well, what I say is this: unless I'm a team, and I think you're really only talking about a handful of teams around the league anyway that have this, but
apparently 9.
Unless you've got a strong locker room with a coach who is going to hold Antonio Brown accountable.
And a strong quarterback.
And a strong quarterback.
I don't mean a good quarterback.
I think Pittsburgh had 2 of the 3. I love Mike Tomlin. I would trade Mike Tomlin for Jason Garrett in a heartbeat. I think
Tomlin had a little too much trust in AB. Well, I think he thought he would reel himself in at some point, and he never did.
I think that Pittsburgh fans have long been wrong in their amount of criticism they send Mike Tomlin's way. But the one mark against him is he never held Antonio Brown accountable for this stuff.
Right.
You got Antonio Brown FaceTiming or whatever he was doing, Instagramming, while Tomlin's in the background giving a speech. He's not even paying attention.
Right.
He's showing up late, and Tomlin says go home, and Antonio Brown feels like he can literally just go home. He just leaves. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that shouldn't be going on. And so I think wherever Antonio Brown lands, if it's going to be,
he will likely not be a New England Patriot.
A successful run for him, where he gets all his money and everything he wants. I think he's got to go to a place where someone's going to hold him accountable.
And we don't know if that's Oakland, or Las Vegas or not. I don't have a real good feel for how John Gruden handles that stuff.
I don't know.
He hasn't been. I mean, all he did last year was fire everybody worth anything on his team. I mean,
you're still trying to decide in Oakland whether Derek Carr is your quarterback. Is this the guy you want to hook Derek Carr's wagon to? I don't know. I don't know if that's
Gruden stopped coaching about the time social media really started blowing up. This is a different world. We don't know how he handles that.
If I'm the Green Bay Packers, I go get Antonio Brown. I pair him with Aaron Rodgers. What do you? The last handful of years where you would think Aaron Rodgers,
he needs to be at a quarterback with a quarterback where he can't badmouth him. And you say something bad about Aaron Rodgers in a press conference, the whole press is going to look at you like you're an idiot, you won't.
I think he should wind up in Green Bay.
I like that. That actually makes sense to me. It probably won't happen because of that. I don't think he would agree to play in a place like Green Bay. I think I think one of the things he didn't like about Pittsburgh was that small market feel. I think he wants.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Another name floating out there.
It doesn't strike me, just real quick, it doesn't strike me that rings is what he's after.
No, he wants his money.
He sounds to me like a guy that really doesn't care if he plays at all.
He wants his money. That's clear. Go back and watch his workout video. Man's about his guaranteed money. That's it.
And that's,
you get a ring and you get it.
And that's the other thing, man. How often does a guy who wants it all guaranteed? I don't know. Don't be surprised if we've seen AB's best work. Don't be surprised. I'm not saying he's not capable of it. I don't know that he's going to try to do it.
Well, he's 30 or knocking on the door to 30. I mean, I think he's still got another few years at least of really high level production.
He was trying to earn that money up to this point. Once he gets it, that's different.
Another man out there looking for his payday. He's long been rumored to the Lone Star State. Earl Thomas is officially on the market.
Quote,
I think.
Come get me.
About another week or so.
What was that, 2017? December of 2017 he said that?
Yep. He goes and chases down Jason Garrett, tells him, come get me right outside the Cowboys locker room after they dash our playoff hopes that year. BG, I've long been on the Earl Thomas to the Dallas Cowboy bandwagon. I'm off, man. I don't think it happens.
The Cowboys have $73 million in cap space. Other than the Redskins, I don't know. You guys might have had the worst safety play in all of football this year.
Well, we have Jeff Heath.
Yeah.
Listen, do I think Earl Thomas would improve our? Clearly. But when you look out, and we've talked about this, Dak Prescott's coming up for an extension. Ezekiel Elliott's coming up for an extension. We just franchise tagged DeMarcus Lawrence. We're going to wind up having to pay him. Amari Cooper's coming up for an extension. You're going to end up
losing him is what you're going to do.
I mean,
man,
all this cap space is spoken for. And unless
when do we see DeMarcus Lawrence wearing a star on his helmet? Is he playing in week one? I mean, he ain't happy about this stuff. I mean, I'm just saying,
it'll get worked out.
Yeah, I hope so. But you're not paying them both.
No, so that's what I'm saying. We have this cap space, and you throw this number out there. Oh, we have X amount of. But when you start talking about those four guys right there goes your cap space. And so then you throw Earl Thomas's name in the mix, and all of a sudden, unless he's going to give you a big-time hometown discount, there's just no money. So we're going to see how much he really wants to be in Dallas.
There's
how
three
much less
teams
he's willing to take.
I went and looked at cap space and safety need, and there's really three teams that, to me, meet both criteria. In other words, we want a safety or need a safety, and we've got the money to pay one. The Colts, the Broncos, and the Redskins.
See, I think the Colts are going to be an interesting place for a lot of these free agents. I think Le'Veon Bell winds up in Indianapolis.
I can see that.
I think Bell winds up there with Andrew Luck, and the talk about Jacksonville going to sign Nick Foles. You got the Titans, you got the Texans, who just tagged Clowney, and I think the AFC South went from like being the most boring, blah division in football to one of the best in the league.
And I haven't seen a lot of Earl Thomas to Washington talk, but I'm a little confused by why it's not even being considered, because we cut Swearinger at strong safety. Our free safety play was non-existent. It was a rotating door. We've got not quite as much money as you. I think $68 million under the cap. I just don't think there's that many places where he's going to get paid.
I mean, let's face it. He's on the wrong side of that big 3-0 number.
You're right about that.
He's on the wrong side. I don't think that the market for older players in the NFL at positions other than quarterback is frankly what it is. And he's coming off of a couple injury plagued seasons now. I think that the Earl Thomas market might be a little less than what he desires, but I still think that he's going to wind up pricing himself out of Dallas. Well, the Giants just cut Landon Collins.
I think Landon Collins is another name that Washington's going to be looking right at. Look, safety is a great position to get in free agency. Mm-hmm. I mean, safety requires a certain level of aggression that you can't see necessarily on college film because the level of contact is different. And let's be honest, safety now, there's a lot of judgment in that position. You better know when to hit and when not to.
Mainly when not to.
An even bigger story to me in the NFL right now is the developing story in Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury mysteriously becoming the head coach there, despite having never even been an offensive coordinator.
Arizona fascinates me.
Yeah, and now, I mean, like 2 weeks ago, I would have told you this was not going to happen, but according to league insiders, they're all over this Kyler Murray overall number one, second year in a row for an Oklahoma quarterback, going to Cliff Kingsbury, who's apparently convinced that Kyler Murray, despite the fact that NFL scout and talent evaluators are telling us that he graded lower than every quarterback taken in last year's draft. Charlie Casserly.
He would have been the fifth quarterback they say taken last year.
Charlie Casserly is on NFL Network yesterday talking about how he's heard all sorts of awful things about Murray's mechanics. And one of the quarterbacks who would have rated higher than him is the quarterback they already have in Josh Rosen. Now, let's be fair, who is a very different quarterback. It's a pocket passer with a lot of arm talent. I don't think you can say one bad thing about Josh Rosen until you start talking about his offensive line. Go watch his highlights. He was running for his life.
He didn't get a fair shake last year in Arizona. His offensive line was terrible.
And his coach apparently was on the hot seat after week 4.
That's what I was going to say. And we see now, looking back, did his coach really even have the authority to do anything, to really coach the football team? He got fired after 1 year. They're going to turn around. It's looking like they're ready to move on from Josh Rosen after 1 year. Congratulations. You guys might not be the most dysfunctional organization in football anymore.
I don't know where Arizona, it looks completely.
Yeah, Kyler Murray goes to the Combine, which we talked about. The Combine is, I don't know anybody that's sitting around and watching, and gets excited about watching a guy run for 40 yards or run through some cones. Kyler Murray goes to this Combine. He doesn't do a drill. He doesn't throw a football. He just goes up there and interviews and talks. And somehow, and takes some measurements, and somehow because the kid picks up 1.5 inches or whatever it was on his height, all of a sudden he's gone from, well, we don't really know about him. He's kind of a small guy, kind of short too.
He's not 5'9", he's 5'10". Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, the quote I heard was, "Oh, it's a done deal." This inch,
well,
1
wasn't done
inch.
The day Cliff Kingsbury got the job.
Well, that's what it sounds
was
like.
That part of the job interview?
That's kind of what it sounds like.
Was the GM, who's the same, was he not involved in the Josh Rosen deal? Was he talked into this by the coach he eventually fired? Who knows? But I'll tell you what.
But if this doesn't work out, that guy will never get another GM job.
Oh no,
ever.
Well, where I am, where I'm more interested in, and that is where Josh Rosen goes.
Oh yes.
Everywhere I read, everywhere says that the number one most probable location for Josh Rosen, possibly for even just a third-round pick, is the Washington Redskins. I don't buy that either.
I'm not buying that. I heard the third.
What do you give up for him? Do you give up a first-round pick for Josh Rosen? He was worth a first-round pick last year. He had no offensive line.
Look, where are you picking at?
15th.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd give it up because I don't think that, let's face it, that quarterback is the glaring need. I mean, we have
no quarterback.
You don't have one. We saw last year when you had Alex Smith.
We're not going to have one.
Yeah, when you had Alex Smith early on, you're in the division hunt, you're in the playoff hunt. He goes down, and all of a sudden, you fall like a stone in a lake. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen. So no quarterback that you pick up, off the street or sign in free agency. If it's not going to be Nick Foles, who's seems like Jacksonville is where he's going to land. Nobody that you're going to be able to get at 15 is going to be better than this kid. And to be fair, everybody seems to think he's going to be a pretty good player. Nobody really knows because Arizona's a mess.
Nobody knows about it anyway. Okay, so you go from one of the worst offensive lines in football to one of the best offensive lines in football when healthy. All right, and listen to this. Then you've got guys coming back healthy next year, who we both in the preseason thought this guy's going to be a monster.
Gonna be amazing.
And he is probably going to be a monster. All right. that lets you look at 15 and say, okay, let's shore up the tight end position, right? Let's take a safety. If we can't sign one of these guys, let's take a safety. Instead of picking a quarterback that's fourth best in a draft that's notoriously weak on quarterbacks anyway.
Listen,
I love it.
I would let the Giants take Dwayne Haskins at 6. If they stay there at 6, I'd let the Giants take Dwayne Haskins and run with it. You said they're talking about a 3 being probably what they get. I would, if it came down to when it's time to get down to brass tacks, if I had to give up the 1, I would. I think ultimately it's going to be a 2. When you start getting other teams involved, I think the price is going to go up some, and I think it's ultimately going to cost you a second-round pick and maybe maybe one later on in the draft to go along with it. But I'm with you.
The Redskins
I would pay the price.
The Redskins have 2 third-round picks this year, so
I'd give them a 2 and one of the 3s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's get the deal done, man.
Yeah,
don't let anybody else get involved in this. They'll make the deal.
Here's my question. As a fan of a division rival, the real test of whether Josh Rosen to Washington is a good idea for the Redskins is it something you would prefer not to happen?
Oh, I'd much rather Washington go out and try and sign, Case Keenum or another one of these,
And so to me,
2 or 3 year, two or 3 year placeholders.
If I were in the other boat and you guys didn't have a quarterback right now, I would hate the idea of Josh Rosen coming to Dallas because there's a chance he's a first-round talent.
Right. Look, going into the draft last year, I don't know what happened. It turns out it looks like it's going to be the right move to take Mayfield. But going into the draft this time last year, we're sitting around talking about is it going to be Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen going number 1? And Cleveland kind of surprised everybody at the 11th hour, flipped on taking Baker Mayfield, and that kind of pushed teams back. Darnold fell to the Jets. You didn't have really quarterback needy teams between there and what was Rosen taking at 10, 11. So you didn't have a lot of teams that really needed a quarterback, and Rosen kind of fell to Arizona where they were. Otherwise, this guy, you're talking about this kid being, borderline going in the top 2 or 3 picks of the draft. So
and I tell you, I said at the end of the offseason that I was less interested in Redskins football right now than I had been in a long time. Look, if they trade for Josh Rosen and somehow sign either Landon Collins, who I think is more likely, maybe Earl Thomas, and are able to use that first draft pick to get something like a tight end, and let's be honest, at 15 you can get a great tight end. Right, you can get a great tight end because Vernon Davis is not going to play till he's 50, contrary to popular belief, and we already know how reliable our other tight end is. He misses 10 games a season. So
I'd cut bait with that guy, man.
Well, I agree. Being able to get value out of that mid-round pick, there are certain positions where you can get it. There are certain positions where you can't. Quarterback's definitely not one of them.
Man, Dak Prescott's don't grow on trees.
That would definitely turn the offseason around for me. It would not make me feel better about Bruce Campbell because this stuff it's luck. It's luck. It's Arizona's poor judgment. It's not.
Now, I'll say this. I would much rather Josh Rosen wind up in Washington.
I said Bruce Campbell. I meant Bruce Allen. Sorry. Bruce Campbell's done nothing wrong.
I'd much rather Rosen wind up in Washington because I think down the road he could wind up being a pretty good player. He doesn't have. I'm more scared of him winding up in New York and teaming up with the weapons they have on offense with Saquon Barkley.
They seem to be high enough in the draft though where they want to get their own guy. Let them.
I was going to say, if you'd rather have Haskins, if they want to take Haskins and let you guys have Rosen, to me that's a win-win for the Cowboys because I think Rosen would be a much better fit up there. But if they, you send him to Washington, I don't think he has quite, I know he doesn't have the weapons that he would have in a place like New York. And I don't think Dwayne Haskins is going to really be an NFL quarterback, within a handful of years anyway. That's a win-win for the Cowboys. I'll take it.
I don't know what you want from me. I'm not worried about the Giants. Not worried about the Giants, man.
See, if Giants can get out from under Eli Manning and get a
I'm not even hearing the Giants for
well, I was saying,
that's not it. In fact, I feel like I'm jinxing something here. It's hard for me to believe Josh Rosen's going to be to Washington because it sounds
like it's a done
amazing.
deal.
But that's what everybody's saying.
Hey,
you're basically hearing like that. That's where it's going to go down. That I mean, and let's be honest. Bruce Allen and Daniel Snyder, they know that they need to placate this fan base because when I tell you that they notice these people are in almost full-on revolt.
And what that tells me, too, is that I was right from day one. Alex Smith's never playing football again.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And they know it.
Yeah.
Just touching base on the combine real quick, though. Can we stop with these people that have done nothing?
I don't even watch the combine.
Okay, well, here's what I'm talking about. So everybody that has been keeping up has heard of this kid, DK Metcalf. The DK is short for a longer, complicated name. But it's a starting receiver at Ole Miss. All right, so he goes up there. He looks like, he's 1.6% body fat, man. He looks like a Greek god. Yeah, he runs a 4.33 40-yard dash. He gets 27 reps on the bench, which is better than average. Other than the 40-yard dash, a 40-inch vertical jump. And, TanMan, that's from standing. That is not a run.
I think my
vertical jump. He jumped almost 4 feet off the floor.
I think my vertical jump is like 8 inches.
Mine's probably about 8.5 inches. Whatever yours is, mine's a little bit bigger.
Liar.
134-inch broad jump. Runs the 20-yard shuttle in 4.6 seconds. So the guy comes off like a stud. But here's the thing. Listen to these stats. Imagine I hadn't told you anything else, all right? In 3 seasons at Ole Miss, season 1, 2 receptions for 13 yards.
Okay, so he didn't play.
Didn't play. All right? Season 2, 39 receptions, 646 yards, 7 touchdowns.
Okay.
All right? Last season, 2018, Ole Miss, 26 receptions, 569 yards, 5 touchdowns.
In an offense that wants to go vertical, that wants to throw the ball and puts up a lot of points.
Look at it. So you tell me right now, 4.33 seconds and a Greek body or a Greek god body or Deebo Samuel. Who ran a sub 4.5 40. Do you really think that matters?
He's no different than any of the other workout warriors in any of the other sports. You see it every year in the NFL. You see it in the NBA. That's why it wouldn't surprise me if Nasir Little leaves North Carolina after this season, despite the fact that it's been pretty underwhelming to this point. He's going to go to these combines and these workouts, and he's going to blow these things out of the water, and somebody's going to take this guy higher than they probably should based on his production, and it's the same thing that's going to happen with this guy.
And then the opposite of that is a guy like Sindarius Thornwell, right, who gets drafted later on, but man, he's holding on to a starting job because he's a good basketball player.
Yeah.
Let's look at Bruce Ellington. He's been cut by half the teams in the NFL, but when you watch him in a game and he catches the ball, he gets yardage because he's a baller. That stuff matters.
Yeah, these workout warriors, they hit these things. Their season ends, and they spend 3 months down in Florida doing nothing but training for these drills. And
don't be surprised in the long stretch of it when Hunter Renfrow has a better NFL career than Sammy Watkins.
Don't
be surprised by that.
We're almost up against it. Rick, where are you hearing about where Debo's going to go?
I think he's going to get drafted as a punt returner. I think he'll be a first-round pick.
First-round pick on a punt returner?
Well, they're going to throw him the ball, but the way he can return punts there, he's going to be a special teams player. I think there are probably teams that have questions about his speed at this point because he didn't run a great 40, but they'll wait for the pro day time too.
Alshon Jeffrey has never blown anybody away with his 40
I think Debo will be a late first-round pick.
Okay. I haven't really looked.
Early second round at worst.
That's what I was thinking, somewhere around the second round. All right, that is it. Like we said, you can email the show at carolinaborderwar@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. You can like and share our page on Facebook as well. The links will be up. If you missed this live or you didn't catch it all, go back and listen to the podcast. It's all there. See you, folks.